All right, we're going to talk a little bit about something called attachment focused EMDR. And want to just kind of start by saying that this is a model of EMDR. A lot of different people have kind of taken this model and made it their own. Laura Parnell is one of the therapists, kind of leading experts in this area. I did a lot of my training with a place in Omaha, Nebraska called the Attachment and Trauma Center of Nebraska. I'm going to include links for both of these places underneath my description. And so there are different variations of this model, but what is this model and why is it important in healing from relational trauma? Okay, so for many of us, when we get in, we kind of begin this work, I'll ask people, we'll kind of start to do some of the work, and I'll say, I want you to imagine how you would be, adult you that's in session today, how you would be with a little child who is hurt. Let's say they hurt their knee, right? And a lot of people will come into therapy and they say they're kind of like, they're at a loss. They're like, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how to nurture. I don't know what nurturing looks like here. I don't know how to be a nurturing figure. And for a lot of people, it's parents who are coming in and saying this, and they're really admitting, like, I struggle with being a parent. I don't know how to nurture. I don't know how to attune. I don't know how to speak loving words. I don't know how to be physically nurturing with my kiddo. And that's such a brave thing. I just want to say that, for parents to come in and to admit that this feels really hard and they don't know how to do it. Oh my gosh, like, hats off. That's incredible. So many of us, I think, feel that way, and we have so much shame around it, and we don't admit that. And so this is parents coming in and saying this, and this is people who are not parents, right? People of all ages, just saying, like, I don't know what that means. There's no formula for who comes in here and says they know what nurturing looks like, and those who don't. Do I think that there is a relationship between the severity of relational trauma and the complexity of it, and not really knowing what nurturing looks like or feels like? Yeah, I do. I think there is a relationship. I think potentially the more severe, the more complex the relational trauma that we experienced, the more likely it is for us to be kind of cut off from this understanding of what nurturing and attunement and healthy attachment looks like. Does that mean that you're doomed? Absolutely not. And that's what I want folks to know. No, you are going to heal. We're just going to have to use some different methods and techniques to help you heal. And that's totally okay, because one of these techniques is attachment focused EMDR. Okay. So what is attachment focused EMDR? Well, it's EMDR, and I'm not giving like the full description here because I'm not going to put you to sleep, but essentially the very simple kind of overview explanation of attachment focused EMDR is this premise that, like, many of us don't know or understand what healthy attachment looks like. We didn't really have any other healthy attachment figures. We can't think of, I'll say, can you think of a coach? Can you think of a teacher? Can you think of a friend or a friend's mom that is an example of this? And people, like, a lot of people cannot think of this. And so this is really this is what attachment focused EMDR is for. So it's a really creative process, and it really is collaborative between the therapist and the patient. And so what we do is we spend a degree of time kind of doing some education about attachment. Why is attachment important? What does healthy attachment look like? What must it include? This is where we talk about those things like attunement, and we talk about consistency, and we talk about emotional maturity, and we talk about just being able to provide that physical nurturing as well. So we talk about, what does healthy attachment look like? What must it include? So there's a lot of education that's kind of done, which is wonderful. I think so many of us would benefit from this education. And then we kind of start to brainstorm. So this is where we use that creative part of the brain that I've been talking about. So it's like, okay, so let's think about like different movies, different books that you've read, people in history, who kind of fits this role of healthy attachment based on what we've talked on, and based on your unique needs, right? So it might be very important for that individual to have an attachment figure that physically looks like them, And so we get to work together. We brainstorm. Okay, so like, who are some of these characters that could be these healthy attachment figures for you? We're creating what we call an attachment team. Okay, so we're not just picking one attachment figure, we're picking multiple attachment figures, kind of with this premise of there's going to be some attachment figures who have certain strengths and others who kind of have different strengths. And so we're putting together a team of people who can meet our needs at any given moment. This is going to be a team of people who, when we do those corrective experiences that I talked about in EMDR, those kind of do-overs, this is going to be who comes into play based on those experiences. So instead of us, the adult self, us coming into that picture, it's going to be this attachment team. And then over time, it's kind of interesting, like we feel more natural to bring our adult self into that picture as well. And a lot of times I say to folks, you can just create your attachment team. Like it doesn't need to be based on a book or a movie or a historical figure, or a sports figure or something like that. You can actually just use your imagination and create your own attachment team figures. And I encourage people to draw these. I've seen some amazing drawings of these attachment figures, different kinds of art that's used to kind of portray these attachment figures, these attachment teams. It's incredible. And when we do that, that really helps, remember, integrate the left and the right hemisphere. We're drawing, we're thinking about these attachment figures, we're using both parts of our brain. Okay, that's so important. And so this is kind of what we do. If we are working with somebody who cannot, in the beginning of therapy, they're like, I don't know what this looks like. I don't know what healthy attachment looks like. I don't know what it means to be nurtured, to be attuned. Nobody's done this to me. This is a reality for a lot of folks. Okay, that's the deal. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you're not going to heal. We just need to be a little bit creative and use some of the other tools that we have. Okay. And the other part of attachment focused EMDRs is really creating safe spaces. So, we're creating these attachment teams, but we're also creating these really amazing safe spaces where the attachment team can kind of get together and convene and meet. And so again, we're using our brains, we're using our creativity here. I've just heard some amazing, beautiful spaces that people develop where they're putting their attachment team. It's kind of a gathering place. It's so beautiful. And then what we do kind of once we've done a degree of preparation, and this takes a couple weeks or even a couple months to do this work, to kind of form this attachment team, to learn about healthy attachment, to create these safe spaces. And then we have this really wonderful foundation to begin this attachment focused EMDR. Okay. And so we kind of tap in, or we use bilateral stimulation to really set the foundation of these attachment figures, this attachment team. This is a safe space. And then we can begin to reprocess some of these more difficult experiences. And we now have these wonderful resources of the attachment team and these safe spaces that we can blend into the EMDR. We can integrate into the EMDR to create these corrective experiences for folks. Such a wonderful version of EMDR. Again, I'm going to put information about this type of EMDR in the comments, in the details section. I hope that you found this helpful. Thank you for doing this brave work and being willing to come on here to expand and grow and learn. Have a good day.